So Joe Biden just came out with a very interesting speech on the day of the Super Bowl talking about inflation and shrinkflation, and we think it's going to actually suggest some very interesting things about what the Fed and Biden plans to do with the economy. But on the very same day, Joe Biden put out this very cryptic tweet on Twitter, and it was a photo of himself with these bright red laser eyes. Many people are making the connection to the laser eyes that many Bitcoiners put on their profile pictures to signal their support for Bitcoin. Many people are asking, is Joe Biden putting out a very cryptic message about Bitcoin? We're going to be, looking into that rabbit hole and more in today's video. But I want to actually first start off by playing this video right here. Now, this was a video published by the White House on the day of the Super Bowl. So let's listen to this and have a look at what Uncle Joe's saying.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drink bottles are smaller. The bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging it just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
So Joe Biden is calling out the companies for engaging in shrinkflation. This is really fascinating. This is really interesting that a president of America is actually recognizing shrinkflation, okay? But I think the bigger issue is actually inflation, okay? In a little YouTube short that we popped out today, we were looking at how much inflation Joe Biden and his friends in the American government have created since 2020. So we looked at the amount of national debt that America actually piled on between the years 1770 and 1970. So over a 200-year period, would you believe it that America has actually piled on more debt since Joe Biden took office than that 200-year period? It is absolutely incredible to think about, and we are going to dive into that little rabbit hole in a second. But I want to show anyone who is not aware of what shrinkflation is, what it actually looks like. Okay, Joe Biden mentioned a couple of examples in that little video that we showed for you guys, but shrinkflation is not just something that affects Joe Biden's favorite ice cream. We can see it's affected all sorts of goods and services over the years. So we can see here that Quality Street has, by the looks of things, decreased the quality of their little lollies that they're selling in these tins that, as you can see, are about half the size that they were in the 1980s. The famous chocolate example of Toblerone went a little bit viral in 2009 and 2019 because you can see the size difference here that the chocolate company came out with. Have a look at the space between the triangles of those chocolate bars in 2009. Compare it to 2019. It's absolutely crazy. So the fact that, shrinkflation is a very it's a very sneaky way that businesses pass on inflation to, consumers like us. And we are dealing with record levels of inflation today. Like the inflation that we're seeing today all around the world, it's the highest inflation we've seen for 50 years, okay, especially in the Western world. Obviously, there's been countries like Zimbabwe and Venezuela who have suffered from very serious inflation, in the 2000s and the 2010s. But the Western world hasn't really seen, 5 and 10% inflation all the way back until the 1970s. So it's a serious issue. And it's very interesting that Biden is trying to, push the blame onto the private company, so to say. And I think the rhetoric that they're trying to push out there is, look, ignore inflation. Shrinkflation is the devil. Shrinkflation is the thing we should be thinking about. We're going to talk a little bit more about shrinkflation, inflation, and government messaging in a moment, but I want to actually talk a little bit more about Joe Biden's cryptic tweet. So I'm going to share my screen once again here, and we're going to look at the picture that Joe Biden uploaded today on Twitter. Now, I saw this and I thought, this can't be the real Joe Biden account, but you click on the profile picture, and this is the real Joe Biden, 37 million followers, president of the United States. Now, let's go back to the tweet, because I think this is really interesting. The Bitcoiners have kind of, latched onto this and said, hang on a minute, those are Bitcoiner laser eyes. Laser rays until 100K. That's the reason that all the Bitcoiners you see on Twitter have those laser eyes as their profile picture, if you are unaware. But it's really interesting. You can kind of see in the comments here, there's lots of Bitcoiners in the comments. Natalie Brunel, laser eyes are for Bitcoin. What's going on here? Very, very, very interesting. We can also see here from a little reply from Joe Nakamoto that this laser eye photo apparently came from one of the TikToks that Joe Biden did. So you can see here, Joe's popped it in the comments. He didn't put the entire video in the comment. I did ask Joe, what the laser eye reference was about. So if anyone watching this live stream does know what the laser eye picture from Joe Biden specifically means, we would love to hear from you, because I could not find anything about it on the, very quick 30 minutes of research that I could cram in before this live stream. I couldn't find anything more that Joe Biden said about it. Very interesting, but just to kind of highlight to anyone who is unaware, there's been a lot of big names who have adopted the laser eyes over the years when they have adopted Bitcoin. Some of the more previous examples include Franklin Templeton. So they are the $1.5 trillion asset manager who adopted the Bitcoin laser eyes. This was about 2 weeks ago, just after their Bitcoin ETF was launched. So we also know of many famous politicians and presidents who have also adopted the laser eyes over the years. This is a cool little Nayib Bukele gif with the laser eyes. He adopted, obviously, the laser eyes on his Twitter account after he made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. And let's not forget what was happening in 2021. I think this is forgotten by many people in the space. All of these politicians and presidents in Latin America were adopting the laser eyes. Okay, I believe this is a Brazilian politician. We also had politicians from Paraguay in 2021 adopt the Bitcoin laser eyes. We can also see here, this is I don't think this is an official photo, but we do know that Samson Mao met with the president of Colombia last month, I believe, which was very interesting, because Samson Mao's job is to educate leaders and presidents on Bitcoin. And we can also see a few other articles kind of backing up that claim there. We can actually see this is the president here of Colombia. And we can obviously see Tom Brady here with the laser eyes. Many senators in America. So the laser eyes is a Bitcoin thing, okay? So that's why all the Bitcoiners are screaming and saying, what's going on with Joe Biden? Why is Joe Biden adopting the laser eyes? But I think this gives me a really good opportunity to talk about something that I think is a very big common misconception in the Bitcoin space. Lots of people believe that Bitcoin adoption around the world is actually going to be a bad thing for America, because people say, okay, if Bitcoin becomes the next global reserve currency, isn't that bad for America? I'm not so sure. And I want to actually explore someone else's thesis. It is called the Bitcoin milkshake thesis. I'm going to try my best to bring up a little tweet thread here and kind of talk through what is the Bitcoin milkshake thesis. Because I think it's interesting, and obviously it relates to America. So we can see here, the consensus believes the US is about to lose the reserve currency as the petrodollar system unwinds. Think about it. All the countries around the world are slowly, selling their US dollar debt. 20% of oil trade last year was actually settled in currencies outside the US dollar. So many people are saying, okay, the petrodollar system's unwinding. And if people and countries around the world move to other currencies, including Bitcoin, this is going to be bad for America. But you know, there's a thesis out there that actually suggests that America might actually be incentivized to accelerate Bitcoin adoption. And this is because of the fact that of all the stable coins adopted around the world today, over 90% of them are actually backed by US government debt. So the Bitcoin milkshake thesis states that as Bitcoin adoption grows, so does the demand for US dollar stablecoins. Just think about that for a second. If a country like Turkey adopted Bitcoin as legal tender tomorrow, Turkey can't just adopt Bitcoin. Okay, this is the big thing that a lot of people don't understand. Turkey can adopt Bitcoin as legal tender, but what are they going to use as a unit of account to price goods and services in? Again, in this hypothetical scenario, the Turkish lira has absolutely hyperinflated. So you need something more stable to use as a unit of account. You can't go in there and buy a loaf of bread for 1,000 sats yet because Bitcoin's still too volatile. So the Bitcoin milkshake thesis claims that if a country adopts Bitcoin, it also has to adopt something stable to use as a stable pricing mechanism. And today, the US dollar is the most stable fiat currency around the world. And so if you see higher Bitcoin adoption, I think there's a case to be made that you could also see higher US dollar stablecoin adoption. The data backs that up. Look at the countries with the highest Bitcoin adoption. They also have very, very high levels of US dollar stablecoin adoption. So where you see higher Bitcoin adoption, you see higher US dollar stablecoin adoption. If those stablecoins are backed by US government debt, all of a sudden the US government finds a buyer for US government debt. And this is happening at a time that the world is dumping their US dollar debt. Okay, that's the Bitcoin milkshake thesis. So again, has Joe Biden figured that out? Probably not. Do the people who help Joe Biden make decisions, have they figured that out? I don't know. Okay, I really don't know. It's Dark Brandon, not Bitcoin related. We have a few questions in the live chat of all things we could have talked about. Who knows what Joe Biden's true intentions are? The Let's Go Brandon meme. Yeah, well, that's very true. The Let's Go Brandon meme, that was a big one. And we better not play a video of that on this YouTube stream because we could get canceled. But if you do want to learn a little bit more about this Bitcoin milkshake thesis and why it actually could be a good thing for America to embrace Bitcoin, once this live stream's finished, we're going to pop a video up on screen of an interview that we had with the one and the only Michael Saylor, where we discussed Bitcoin adoption and US dollar, global hegemony in far more detail. I'm going to pop a link for that video up on screen right about there. With all that said, hope you guys enjoyed this live stream and stay tuned. We're going to be releasing another video tomorrow, so make sure you subscribed so you see that when it drops, and we hope you have a great day.